Elizabeth Endres from the Wellness Process.
I'm so happy to be here.
You did wind up manifesting an extraordinary relationship.
I feel like my heart is like racing right now talking about it. I don't think I've ever actually said this on a podcast before. TBM really helped me with taking that aligned action step every single day. I will not miss a day. This is funny. Oh, I haven't read this in a long time. Honestly, went against everything I believed in. I really genuinely feel in my soul that this is just the beginning. What's next? There's a lot of big things happening.
You just announced the blog that you launched grew into this huge brand with one of your best friends you are now separating from. What is that looking like?
So I think that a good place to start.
It was a chilly January morning and I got a DM from Elizabeth Endres. She's a major fan of TBM and the podcast, and she speaks about it frequently on her own podcast as she's manifested so many of the best things in her life through TBM. She is the host and creator of the Wellness Process podcast. She is also one of the co-founders of the Sweats and the City brand and account. And she has gone on to impact millions with her stories of healing through chronic illness and manifesting her dream partner. I knew in connecting with Elizabeth and going on her podcast and learning more about her story and sitting in presence with her and connecting to her energy and how grounded she felt, how honest, how authentic it felt even being in the room with her, that we had to have her on Expanded, hear about how she manifested these incredible things, move through these transformations, what tools she used, what DI she used, what she leaned on in the practice, and how she really made the work her own. And one fun story I'll share with you guys. So when I recorded on her podcast, I think it was back in March, I was in New York for a friend's wedding. And when we were at the wedding, I was talking to the girls in the bridal party and they were saying, oh, Jessica was just on Elizabeth's podcast. And they're like, oh, Elizabeth Endres, like she's the most magnetic woman in New York right now. And just hearing it put such a big smile on my face because I was like, yeah, she really is. It's really palpable to see how much that reconnection to self, that reclaiming of self, that truly honoring and putting in those rituals in that time from a place of self-love can radiate outside of you and align with so many of the things that you want in your manifestation journey. Speaking of New York, Lacey and I will be coming to New York on October 25th for our How to Manifest book speaking tour. I cannot wait to connect in person. Our VIP tickets are already sold out, but don't worry, we still have a limited number of early bird tickets where you can get $50 off the ticket price. After that, they go to general admission. We're going to bring some new teachings to you guys, talk a bit about this process and the book, help craft our list together, get really clear about one aspect that we want to call in over the next 6 to 9 months. And we're going to have a little wellness hour at the end where I'm going to get to connect with you guys in person. You can meet other expanders. We have such an expansive community of incredible souls who are manifesting all over the place. So just even connecting in person is helping to move your manifestations along and allow them to connect with you. So if you've ever wanted to touch base in our in-person events, I highly suggest coming to New York. We're also going to be stopping in Austin, Texas in November and in LA in December. Cannot wait to see you guys and make sure to snag a ticket before they sell out. And with your speaking tour ticket, you get a copy of our brand new How to Manifest book. The VIPs get a signed copy from Lacey, but all of the other attendees also get a copy of the book, or you can pre-order the book now. I'm so excited. It drops on October 21st. And anyone that pre-orders gets a free reflection ritual and a discount on the Pathway membership if you are not a member yet. So be sure to check that out. I know you guys are going to get a lot out of this episode and I'm excited to dive in. Meet your newest expander, Elizabeth Endres. And now a word from our partners. There's something about bone broth that feels almost medicinal. It's this ancient practice of slow simmering bones for hours to release collagen, protein, and minerals that truly nourish the body. When I sip it, I can feel the difference almost immediately. My digestion settles, my energy steadies, and it feels like this warm, comforting, grounding nourishment. That's why I love Kettle and Fire. Their bone broth is rich, savory, slow simmered, and made with 100% grass fed and finished beef bones or organic free range chicken bones. No additives, no preservatives, no weird stuff, just clean, real ingredients. It supports gut health, digestion, muscle recovery, energy, and immune function. Not only does it have 19 grams of protein per serving, but it's naturally rich in collagen and amino acids like glycine and glutamine, which help repair the gut lining, joint health, and aid in your recovery in ways that most health foods don't. Plus, sipping something hot and savory signals to the body to go into that rest and digest state, soothing your overall nervous system and digestion. I like to heat up a little cup of the Kettle and Fire either first thing in the morning before I make my breakfast or start my day, or I'll do it in the afternoon right when I finish a workout to kind of fuel me, sustain me before I can make a full dinner. And it feels so supportive. I notice a massive difference in my skin, my digestion, and my overall health. It also tastes delicious, and I love adding it sometimes to my cauliflower rice or my stir-fry vegetables to just add more flavor and bring a different simmer to everything as well. It makes a huge impact on cravings as well as bloating and digestion. For a limited time, you can get a free carton of Kettle and Fire bone broth by going to kettleandfire.com/TBM. Just buy any 3 cartons in store and they will pay you back for 1. This works on any flavor at any retailer. You can find Kettle and Fire in stores nationwide, including Costco, Walmart, Target, Publix, Whole Foods, Kroger, and Sprouts. That's KETTLE and fire.com/TBM to get your free carton. And now, onto the episode. Today we have Elizabeth Endres from the Wellness Process. Welcome. This has been so anticipated. Everyone is so excited.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful, Jessica, that you came on my podcast. And honestly, I just went on my Instagram story and I was like, guys, this has been a manifestation that I can think of years ago before even having a podcast, walking down the streets in New York City, listening to you and Lacey in my ears and thinking one day I will have manifested enough to go on their podcast. So It's really a beautiful moment.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so wild. I don't have a real awareness, and I'm sure you have this too, of how many people you impact, how many people the TBM work impacts and your work impacts and your voice impacts and all of those things. I'm sure also having Sweats in the City for 10 years, and we'll talk more about that later. But I'm always still shocked when people come up to me on the street and they're like, oh my God, Jessica. I've had people come up to me who are in the middle of listening to Expanded, and they're like, I'm literally listening to your voice right now. I'm like, this is such a surreal moment. This is a weird byproduct of it, but it's so beautiful too.
It actually never gets old, and it's always surreal. And, I was so used to having people say things like that to me over the years, having done Sweats in the City. And I have to say that now that I have a podcast and it's so intimate and I'm just really putting myself out there and being vulnerable and speaking from the heart in a very different way. And so when people come up to me and mention that, it makes me emotional. It hits a totally different chord. And by the way, oftentimes those people are like, I found To Be Magnetic through you and it's changing my life. It's often in tandem.
It's so cool. I'm obsessed. Okay, so let's go way back. First off, what is your astrology and human design? Because I love this archetype for people. I think it just gives people something to understand and kind of see more of themselves in you.
100%. So I am a projector in human design. I am a Leo sun, Leo rising, Virgo moon.
Wow. Do you feel like you resonate with your big 3?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I feel like your typical Leo is someone that is kind of the life of the party and loves to be the center of attention. And I definitely find that attention through my work, of course. But I'm someone who doesn't really like to have birthday parties and is worried about being dressed too fancy at my own wedding. I'm kind of like a low-key Leo in my own niche areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember you shared that on your stories. You were like, I really don't like the attention on my birthday. And then even you were describing your authentic version of what you guys want your wedding to look like. It's very much that intimate setting. Would you consider yourself an introvert?
I think I'm definitely an introvert. And I fought
Yeah.
it for so long, you know? I think it's you want what you can't have, but it's just generally more attractive to be like fun and extroverted. And that's just literally not me. I love social settings when I love the people and when it's a group under five at a dinner table, like a round dinner table. But anything other than that, I get very overwhelmed and I just need alone time to charge my batteries.
I think this is huge and really expansive for people who there's so much pressure for people to like be online. Like if you have a business, you need to be online. You need to be the face of your company, all of these things. And like there are ways to do it where you don't have to compromise your authenticity. You don't have to compromise your energy levels or your social battery or whether you're more introverted or extroverted, like you can really lean into what feels correct for you and show up in a way that feels good for you too.
Absolutely. And I really think I've found that with podcasting because it is forward facing, but not so forward that I'm like in front of a big crowd. You know, I kind of feel like I'm alone when I'm doing it, even though it's reaching so many people.
So cool. Okay. Childhood background and upbringing. What is one thing or a few things that really paint the picture of you as a child and what made you who you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, a small-ish college town in the Midwest. Two amazing parents, a sister who's 5 years older than me. And I would say that my family would definitely describe me as the sensitive one in the family. I was hypersensitive to everything. Everything was difficult. I felt my emotions very heavily. And honestly, I felt very misunderstood throughout a lot of my childhood, which is something I've kind of come to realize. And it wasn't anyone's wrongdoing. It was just that I didn't have the proper outlets and I didn't know that feeling really deeply was actually my superpower. So I kind of struggled for a while and I feel like I've now found the right outlets and we can get into all of those things. But just someone who felt really big and felt a little trapped in a small town, I would say. It wasn't until I went to college and started meeting people from the East Coast at University of Michigan where I was like, wow, there's so many other worlds out there, you know? It was really eye-opening and expansive without me even knowing at the time that that's what was happening.
Okay, so now painting the picture, because I know more of your story than maybe our listeners do yet, but you had this, what seemed like a real stripping rock bottom moment in your life where certain career things were not going the way you wanted, the relationship you were in was not going the way you wanted. Kind of paint the picture of that time because it sounds like during that chapter, that's when you like really started to connect with who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a couple, but the first one that really comes to mind is probably during 2020. So I had just gone through a breakup, someone that I'd been with for like 5 or 6 years. And it was my first time living alone in New York City. I'd moved out of our apartment together, which was really tough. So I would have been like, I don't know, 25 or 26. And I moved into a new apartment in Chelsea that I, of course, manifested through TBM. And then COVID happened. And I come from a background of having a lot of health issues. And so COVID really brought out a crazy level of health anxiety for me. I was also totally alone in my apartment in New York. I couldn't get to my family. Some of them were health compromised, so I didn't feel safe doing that. And I didn't have this relationship that I had leaned on for so many years. I truly have never felt more alone and isolated and scared. And I think fear was sort of like the root of everything that then started happening in my body. So I started getting really bad chronic pelvic pain. That was probably my most immense symptom. I had that for about 5 years where it almost felt like I had a UTI every day. I started getting crazy brain fog and memory loss. I remember being on dates and not being able to remember what these guys were saying like a sentence before, and I was so embarrassed. I started getting really bad joint pain. I couldn't even do a plank. I was gaining weight. I didn't look like myself. I look back at those photos and I'm like, I don't know who she was. Maybe somebody else wouldn't see that. They probably would. But it's really, you just totally don't feel like yourself. And I became obsessed with finding the answer to what was going on with my body. I was like, my whole body is melting down. Like, what is happening? And at that time, also, I had about a year prior quit my job to do Sweats in the City, my Instagram account and blog full time. So I was also in total scarcity and fear financially because I had made this huge leap to leave my job at Bloomberg and do this Instagram account full time without any financial backing from anybody. So I would say that like kind of every area of my life, love, career, health, I was scared about my family. It was like everything kind of was an unknown. And the fear was coursing through my body. So that's kind of like painting the picture of this base of a rock bottom.
One thing I want to pick out of that too is we get a lot of questions around people who are in relationships that they're really unsure about, especially as they start doing that internal work. They discover a new part of themselves, a new authentic version. How did you know it was time to leave that relationship? And you've talked about how, it's one thing if you have someone that cheats or there's a really big infraction or anything like that, but when it's a good relationship and they're a good person, like how do you know when it's right for you? So what were some of those earlier signs, and how long prior to you guys ending did you actually like get that ping from the universe?
It's hard to say exactly when. I will say that leaving the good relationships, that's actually the hardest kind of breakup. I've had the one where the guy cheats and you can swear him off and talk a bunch of crap with your friends and move on and have everyone be on your team. But when the person is really amazing and you have a best friendship of many, many years and you've lived together, it makes it really hard for both of you to walk away. One thing I will say is the more inner work you do, and I was doing TBM at the time for sure. That's actually when I started it, when I started to feel like, I don't really know. I felt like both of us kind of didn't know what direction this was going to go. And I was just seeking guidance from anywhere. And I think that the more you start to do that kind of inner work, the DIs, taking really good care of yourself, the more your gut muscle starts to strengthen, where you can't do things that are no longer aligned for you. And it just kind of grew stronger and stronger. And I think we just sort of grew apart. And, we reached a mutual decision to part ways. It was really challenging. We maintained a friendship afterwards. It was definitely a trust fall, right? Especially because it was such a pure, amazing relationship that I'd grown so much in. I met him at a very young age. I would just say that getting really quiet, pen to paper, asking your body and your soul exactly what it needs and just like allowing it to flow. You don't always need a perfect plan. I definitely didn't have one. I left that relationship and was like, okay, I think I have enough money to make it work in my own apartment and do this business on my own. It was very scary. And then when COVID happened and all my brand partnerships started canceling because all of these brands were afraid of, everyone became so fearful. It was like, hold on to your money.
Yep.
So it was rocky in every way, for sure.
I think that's such a good picture to put yourself into for the listeners, because this year in particular, so many people are going through a stripping process, whether they're voluntarily leaving situations that are no longer aligned because they just like cannot tolerate it anymore, or it's being pulled away from them. That position of like, universe, what the actual fuck do you want from me? Like I'm doing this. What's happening here? This is unknown. Everything feels so scary, but I just want you guys to really like understand this is like the transformation portal. Like this is the beginning of something so incredible on the other side. So if you are in that chapter right now, we are sending you so much love, but you are so not alone in it.
Yeah, I really hope that this episode speaks to the person that's in transition, because even if it's not you leaving a relationship or being broken up with, it could be career, it could be your health. Like, I feel like I really hit on all of those areas in this episode. So hopefully everyone can see a little bit of themselves in at least one of those categories. I feel like everyone is going through it right now. Like, is something astrologically causing breakups? Because all of my girlfriends are breaking up.
I mean, through the lens of human design, like there is this concept of the new paradigm that's happening in 2027. And so really it's like ushering us into the new age. And Lacey did a channeling on this, and I've connected with the community on this so much. But I think really the collective question is anything that's not in alignment, that's not in authenticity, that's not for our highest good. We don't have the luxury of wasting time settling on the things that aren't for us, because I think all of our purposes are like, you need to wake up. We don't have any more time left. Wake up, look at what's happening. I think everyone has a very unique gift and purpose in this lifetime, and not enough of us feel empowered to seek it. It's kind of like getting everybody prepared so we can all get on the path to, I think, hopefully usher in a better, more evolved world.
Yeah. It's a really good way to also reframe it. And I will just say, having gone through so many of those transformations, all of them were a gift.
So you're going through this, there's like chaos, so much unknown. what were you manifesting? Like, what did you want? And then what was showing up? What was happening? What do you think the fears, the stuckness, like what did you need to process through in order for those things to come to fruition?
So I would say with my health, all I wanted was to be pain-free and healthy. I was obsessed with it in a way that actually was to my detriment because I was trying to control an outcome so tightly. And I don't fault myself for that at all. Honestly, I was just trying to survive. I was so low. I was depressed. I can't reiterate enough how uncomfortable it is to feel like you have a UTI every day and not. And so I really, tried to take it into my own hands and see every doctor, try every supplement, take the medication, get the scan. I did it all. And it wasn't until, gosh, I think it was New Year's Eve of 2023. So at that point, I had probably been in pain for at least 3 years. And someone mentioned to me this woman, Nicole Sachs. And I would say that that was a divinely guided situation. I don't know how else to put it. When you just hear someone's name or a thing and you're like, that's for me. So a ping of sorts, I'm not exactly sure what you would call it, but I immediately resonated and was like, this is something that I have to go all in on. I bought her course. I read her book. I started doing her daily journaling practice. And lo and behold, her work, which is all around, how stored emotions can cause physical pain and chronic conditions, and being able to release it every day through a daily aggressive journaling practice has landed me in a place where I sit here today completely pain-free and healthy. So I got there.
Wow.
It took way longer than I would have ever hoped, but some of these things do. And it also then simultaneously landed me to creating my podcast. So I genuinely look back at each of these little things, even the pelvic pain, and I'm like, there was a gift in that. It was guiding me to my purpose, all of it. Sometimes it's easier said than done to not try to use force to get our way with these manifestations. But I think you'll find your way one way or the other. And mine just had to be kind of a low and slow process. But I finally got there.
I mean, there's a couple of huge things I want to point out because we do have a lot of people who have chronic health issues and ailments and illness and all of these things. And they're definitely testing different modalities and all of that. But the two things that really stand out is you are in a place of desperation looking for all of these, like, fix me, like what is going to be the magic sauce to like really clear this and like take this out of me. You manifested the healing by asking for like, okay, universe, like what, guide me, so many times we're like, oh, I'll just have to research this. We're almost like using our monkey mind so much in the logistics of what's the best thing. Oh, I read the ingredients on this, or this supplement can do this for me. But it's almost in that surrender, like, okay, universe, send me the healer, send me the person, send me the medicine, whatever it is, have it pop out in front of me loud. And so I can't miss it. So I know what is the thing that I need for me. But then the second piece is the fact that through this journaling practice, and I've learned about it through you, which I'm like now trying to get Daniel to do because he has health ailments. And I'm like, you have to sit and write about this. Like, this is huge. But that unfiltered, basically like, and it's almost like a aura clearing for your energy insides, it sounds like, right?
Absolutely. And I just also have to say, for the person listening that's like, yeah, I'm sure journaling cured your chronic health conditions. I felt the same way. And it honestly went against everything I believed in. I was like, there is no way this is going to work. I have chronic bacteria in my bladder. I was so fixated on all of the science of it. And of course, there is a time and a place for that. And I had to go through my process with it all. But yes, there is absolutely an energetic clearing. I think that especially women who are hypersensitive, who carry a lot of emotional weight, who are overachievers, who have picked their bodies apart for 20 plus years, we tend to be the ones that then have the chronic migraines and the vertigo and the Lyme disease and the mold toxicity. And it's not to say that all of that doesn't exist, but I genuinely believe that when our emotional reservoir starts to overflow, that's when we get symptoms, because it's literally our body screaming out, being like, attention. Nicole Sachs always gives this, she tells this metaphor of, there's a fire in this house and the flames are raging and the fire alarm's going off and the fire department arrives and they start spraying, and they're spraying the fire alarm instead of the fire. That's what we're doing when we're playing whack-a-mole with these chronic symptoms. And I'm trying to band-aid my joint pain, and I'm trying to like do all these little tiny repairs all over my body. And it's like, there's actually there's an alarm bell going off inside. And so, back to your original question, I think it absolutely was an energetic clearing. And by the way, it's one that I continue to do every single day. I will not miss a day. It is my medicine.
I think finding the thing that works for you guys in terms of having that outlet to feel through emotions. For different people, it's going to be different things. For some people, it's movement. For some people, it's stillness. For some people, it's journaling. Definitely, if you are someone who's suffering from chronic health issues, try out this exercise 100%. But I feel like it's so important that we cultivate those practices because it's not going to magically go away. I always have this fantasy that like, okay, when I go on vacation, I'll finally process everything I've been thinking about and whatever. And it's like, you go on vacation, you don't want to journal. You don't want to feel through heavy feelings. You want to relax and be with family and friends and have fun. So it's like the practice is in the daily. The practice is in every single moment, just offloading it bit by bit by bit. I mean, even after I record podcasts, I always do our clear your aura DI because I'm like, whatever energy, whatever stories, like I release it, I let it go. I need to feel what I'm feeling and keep it moving. But I think finding that for yourself, especially if you're someone who is struggling with anything with health related, that's going to be massive.
Yeah, I actually feel like having had this discovery at a younger age is my superpower now because I see it happening in myself. A little thing will pop up and I start to kind of go down the rabbit hole and the fear just fuels it. And you can literally stop these things in their tracks. And by the way, I'm not speaking to serious medical conditions. Obviously, everyone should get everything fully checked, and I did that. But these chronic, uncurable, I say that in air quotes, things might have another layer to them that I think a lot of listeners might benefit from exploring.
100%. And it's also just something you could do on top of whatever your medical practice is. It doesn't mean you have to do this instead of any of that stuff. It's just like this is something that could really help lower the inflammation in the body, process emotions. I mean, the science is getting better and better at just seeing the intersection of the two and how they're so inextricably linked. So it'll be interesting to see over the years what starts popping up. I mean, I feel like you can't scroll 2 seconds without seeing something on nervous system regulation. I'm like, There's a reason.
Yeah. People are starting to open their eyes because I think a lot of people, similarly to my situation, reach a rock bottom where they're like, I will literally try anything, even if it sounds insane.
I'm thinking of like all the crazy things I've heard of my friends do, like something with like frog venom or frog. There's some like weird thing with frog. Like there's crazy shit out there, but just try what works for you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You know that feeling when your entire body just exhales? That is exactly what I feel every time I use the Bond Charge Infrared PEMF mat. It feels like plugging yourself back into nature's power source, and major bonus points when I lay on this mat and do a deep imagining. PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy. It's designed to match the same gentle frequency of the earth and one that helps your body relax, recover, and restore. It has grounding magnetic frequency, soothing heat, and skin energizing light, all in one luxurious wellness mat. It emits soothing far infrared heat that melts the tension in your muscles, red and near infrared light to boost circulation, help your skin glow, and speed up recovery. And it is layered with grounding crystals like amethyst, tourmaline, and selenite to help your body completely recalibrate. I've been using my PEMF mat first thing in the morning when I roll out of bed. I'm still feeling a little chilly. I'll put on the heat. I'll put on the 8 frequency hertz. That is Sherman's resonance, the same frequency as the earth. And I'll put a little DI on behind my head and just rest, feel into my body, reconnect, wake everything back up in a really gentle, nourishing way. Even 10 minutes on the mat, I can feel a huge shift. If you've been craving a way to unwind, recharge, and actually feel something working, the Bond Charge Infrared PEM mat is way to go for your favorite at-home luxury ritual. And you can get 15% off with code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC at checkout. Again, that's magnetic, MAGNETIC, all caps, for 15% off any Bond Charge purchase. You can check the link in show notes or go to bondcharge.com. I get a lot of questions about my hair, and Acton Acre just launched their Daily Hydro Hydrating Conditioner and System. And after 2 washes, my hair was already feeling stronger. I could run my hand through it immediately after washing. And that is when I knew this was not any other conditioner or serum. This system works together to deeply hydrate, smooth texture, and visibly repair damage while also helping to prevent future breakage. The secret is 5% Tylosine, which is clinically proven to improve scalp and hair hydration by 83% in just 30 days. Most shampoo and conditioners just coat the hair temporarily. They don't actually do anything to hydrate the scalp and strengthen the strands root to tip. This does. If you're wanting your hair to feel softer, smoother, silkier, it feels more manageable, you can brush through it with more ease, this is the system for you. And the best part, it is a daily, so you can use the shampoo and conditioner every single time you wash your hair. It's not a once a week treatment. You can use it every single day. I use a tiny little squirt whenever I'm washing my hair, and it has made such a big difference. And then they have their daily hydro scalp serum that helps to relieve dry scalp, strengthen hair and scalp barrier, and overall supporting the scalp. And if the scalp is healthy, the hair is going to be healthy. So if you're looking to up your hair game, this is the system for you. This is honestly one of my favorite products from Acton Acre. I truly trust them with my hair. They have the cleanest, most sustainable, and really effective products on the market for hair and scalp care. You can try out their products today and get 25% off with discount code TBM25 by going to their site, actandacre.com, or check the link in the show notes. Again, that discount code is TBM25. You also get a discount right now if you sign up for their subscription service, which is a steep discount off as well. So you're in this process, you're finding this healing with the chronic health issues. Are you manifesting a partner? Have you crafted an official list? What does that look like?
Yes. So I had all my different categories with my TBM work, right? So there was the health piece. I was, trying to envision what a healthy body would look and feel like. There was definitely the partner piece, and that I worked at for a long time. And then there was also career, and I didn't know exactly in that what that would look like. And I think that's what stops a lot of people up, where they're like, I don't know, it's just such a blank slate. Like, where do I even start? And so I really tried to get into what that would feel like to start something of my own. And so, yeah, with the partnership list, I did that exercise many times. I would say that the most potent version of that exercise was at the end of 2020. So I had quoted the end of 2023 for when I discovered Nicole's work. I believe that was actually end of 2022. So end of 2023, I sat down with one of my girlfriends. We did like a little us retreat at her home in Naples, Florida. And we were like, we're going to do the TBM end of year challenge. And we were accountability partners and we did it together. And that is when I really went in on the partnership stuff, because I felt like, okay, I've kind of finally handled this health stuff. That was a base that needed to be well tended to before calling in my partner. I started crafting the list. We were very diligent. I did the full challenge, and I met my fiance probably about 7 months later.
Wow. Okay, I'm so curious because you were also calling in health, career, and relationship. When you look back now on those things, was there a through line or a belief about self or a story or a narrative that connected a little bit in all three?
I think that I had this limiting belief, and it's something that I still have to actively work through. And I don't know if it connects so much to the health stuff, maybe. I have this debilitating fear of being mediocre. I don't think I've ever actually said this on a podcast before. And just being like good and happy, but not like excellent. I felt that a lot growing up. I felt very comparative to other people and the things that they had. A lot of shame around liking nice things. Turns out it's part of my authentic code, and like it actually genuinely brings me joy. It's not about money. It's about aesthetics and beauty. I think that I was sort of stuck in feeling mediocre in both areas and feeling like maybe other people would say that what I had was great, and so it just needed to be good enough. Simultaneously, I felt this pull to be extraordinary in both of those areas, to feel extraordinary about the person that I marry, to feel like, wow, my career is exactly what I've always dreamed it to be. And I think that there was definitely some blockage around both of those things. And while I've definitely figured it out with partnership, which I'm so grateful for, I think the career situation is just getting started, and I'm really excited about that.
That is such a powerful block, and I feel like a really common one. I've had a similar one that's the fear of being average. Good, but not that good. Okay. Like,
Exactly.
just like in the middle, like that, something about that narrative. Because it's not even a fear of like the lower end, because I don't even have a visual point of what that is, but it's just being like not quite impactful. And I haven't really like deeply unpacked it. Now I'm like, shit, Jess, you really should look at that one. But I think that's a really powerful one. I think it can come up in so many different ways, especially if I've seen this come up with people who have big families where they don't stand out to their parent. I see this with overachievers a lot because I think there's something about, and I don't know if you identify as this, but I definitely did, where I felt like I had to like take care of a lot of things in the home emotionally and just be like the North Star and like the holding the energy for the family and all of the things, especially 12 years and older. It was me, my mom, my sister. So if my mom was like, oh my God, what do we do about this? I'm like, don't worry, mom. I've got a plan. I could figure this out for us. Let me do this.
Taking on the whole load.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, and that's where it can look so different for different high achievers, but there's something about feeling like if you are at the top of that game or that industry or that thing and it's above average, then it makes you the most safe. It's almost like you have adult authority. It's got to be linked to, at least for me. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm like pulling it together in real time.
There's like two parts to it, right? Because part of it is this authentic wanting to be extraordinary in our respective categories.
Yeah.
And the other part is the overachiever and sort of that like self-critic voice that, I don't know, would I ever be really good enough in my career? You know, it's like, okay, I have to hit this milestone and then the bar just gets raised higher. So I think there's two pieces of work to be done there. And like I said, it's an ongoing process for me for sure.
It's so interesting too, because this is such a block that's so internal and you can have the most evidence of it not being true. Like even thinking about being able to leave your job for your passion, right? For this blog that you guys are creating from Bloomberg into this, even working at Bloomberg, extraordinary. Like so many people would see it in that place, but it's so much of our own internal narrative and lens that we're peppering on all. We're like, yeah, it's good, but it's not good enough. Or yeah, it's this, but it's not, like it's this push and pull between our higher self and the like protective parts that are like, you could keep going. Don't get too comfortable here.
Exactly.
Okay, so you did wind up manifesting an extraordinary relationship. How did you go about doing that? What DIs were you leaning on? Any TBM tools that you sort of like made your own and did it in your own way? What was the process of that coming into fruition?
Yes. Okay. So I will say, like I said, the challenge was a really big one. I really committed to that and then continuing to do the DIs after the challenge. Safe DI is amazing. Also, this required for me aligned action, which was going through the breakup. When I started that challenge, I was still in the relationship. And I think it made it really clear to me that I was blocked. And I really think that when you're in the wrong relationship, even if it's an amazing person, it's easy to become blocked in a lot of areas in your life. I will say that TBM really helped me with taking that aligned action step. And then once I did, it like really freed up the space and time for me to continue to do the work in my own physical space, my own apartment that I then manifested through my list, down to like the exact couple of streets in Chelsea that I wanted to be on, and having a washer dryer and having floor to ceiling windows and being under a certain price for rent. I think I was like $25 under that price. So, it wasn't necessarily one specific thing. I think consistency was very important to me. and having an accountability partner that did all of it with me so that I could really stay on it, because doing it just every so often and then being like, oh, I'm not really seeing results, like that's not enough.
It's so true. And you have to see the work play out in your day to day. After you craft the list, which I'm curious, I want to see what your list was for your partner or any parts of your list that you're comfortable sharing.
Of course.
But once we have that in motion, it's like clocking how everything is so connected. You know, if our self-worth is the basis for what we're manifesting, what we're calling in, it doesn't matter what category it's in. How are you getting pushed against that in everyday moments? You know, how are you compromising your self-worth? How are you not honoring yourself? How are you not respecting yourself? And I think so many times with partnership, there is such a longing for life to be complete once the partner arrives. I'm not good enough until then. I can't really settle. I can't really enjoy my life. I'm not going to do those things until I have the partner. The opposite needs to be true. You need to be living your life for you, full stop, doing what you want, celebrating yourself, going out with your girlfriends, having the vacations as if the partner was there. That is the energy of when, and obviously it's divine timing with the other person as well. But I just see so many people who are manifesting partners and then they're not living their life. They're like, I think I am, but there's still that, you know what it is? I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I'm curious if you had this. She's like, I'm living my life, but not too comfortable in being her full self because there was a fear that if she did, she would like miscommunicate to the universe that she's all good by herself and she doesn't need anyone. Like if she was too happy with herself, that meant don't send a partner through because you're so content with yourself.
I feel like that's just resistance to the work. It's like it's your body and your mind trying to keep you comfortable, which ends up kind of being like staying in the discomfort of your present moment, right? And I will say, like, especially for people that are listening who are single or dating. And I don't want to act like I did this whole thing perfectly. I think dating is really an energetics game. I went through 2 different periods of 2 different approaches, and one landed me with my fiance and the other had me sitting on the couch watching TV shows, distracted, swiping on apps and feeling like I needed a hit of dopamine from getting a guy to like me or going on a date with someone who was a love bomber. Like I went through both stages of that. And, you know, in the beginning, I was really like excited about dating and I wanted to go out and I wanted to get attention. And I was kind of doing it to fill a void and stay really busy and keep myself distracted, right? And then once I burnt out from that, I was like, okay, I need to take some me time. I scheduled a whole summer of travel with one of my best girlfriends in Spain. And that, of course, is when I met Clayton. And it was actually interesting timing because I then ended up having to leave and go to Europe and be away from him. And I actually think it worked out beautifully because we didn't rush into things at all. So again, all in divine timing. But when I was in that state of urgency and needing to find the one and, you know, just sort of dating from a little bit of a toxic energy. And I think if we really tune in, the listener can probably tell whether they're doing that or not.
I mean, that's also how you manifested the health clearing too. It was going from that desperation, oh my gosh, I have to find all the things, I have to date all the people, I have to swipe in the app, so I have to find the healing condition to connect back to me. What do I need? What do I want? What will bring me joy? And then it just magnetizes. So, okay, so what was on your list?
So, okay, let's bring it up. I'll give you a couple from partnership and then I can take you through my actual. This is funny. Oh, I haven't read this in a long time. Okay, so I have my TBM list in my phone where I can go through like mini manifestations and things that I've checked off. And this is like my partnership lists that I'll just skim through. My future partner has brown, thick hair with little waves in the back. Clayton has that.
Oh my God.
Okay. Is well-cultured, may speak another language or be from another country. Well-cultured. Wants to get married and be a dad. And with him for the first time ever, I wanted to. I had never really felt passionate about having kids before I met him. He has effortless style. Clayton has better taste than I do. He doesn't care about what other people think, and that quality rubs off on me. He's not in the scene but knows all the spots. He has a really great quality group of friends and their wives. He's 35 to 42 years old. Clayton was 41 when I met him. His apartment taste and style is incredible and makes me want to build a dream home together. He's trustworthy, super present, mega intelligent, passionate about work. His family rocks. I'm just skimming. We travel to incredible places I've never been together. He gets it. We laugh so much. He's not jealous. He treats me like his queen. He's patient with my mental health and introvertedness. He takes great care of himself. He's amazing with my friends. I'm very attracted to him. He loves having quality time with me. He's not defensive. I mean, the list goes on and on, but you guys get the point.
Wow. I mean, this is from what I know of him on the internet. This is him to a T.
Total. And guys, I wrote this list January 15th, 2024. I called him in 6 months later.
Wow. What's really striking about your list too, it's like very poetic. I love how it feels like a journal entry of like a letter to future you. Like, hey, this is what he's going to be like. I've already experienced it. I'm just like letting you know what it is. I love almost like a storytelling ability to it. But so many of the qualities were about the connection, was about how you feel with him, how you feel seen, how you show up for each other, the things that you connect on, like style and culture and travel. It's all in there, but it's in there through the lens of how will this make me feel? How will this show up? How will this present? And feels like also a reflection of someone who really understands their needs.
That really came from having been in many different relationships and figuring it out that way. You know, sometimes it's trial and error. And I think people put so much pressure on themselves to find the one right away. And a lot of our friends start getting married when we get out of college. And there's so much pressure and timelines and things like that. And it's like, what about actually reframing it and looking at all of your ex relationships as learning experiences and the greatest mirrors to figure out things about yourself that maybe need some work, and also things that you genuinely really value in partnerships, some of which may surprise you.
So good. So good. So what was the first meeting? Did you know right away? How long did this progress? What did that story look like?
So I actually knew Clayton before we met. We knew of each other. We had like met in passing years prior. And one of our mutual friends had said to me, "You're going to marry Clayton." She was like, "I'm going to call this now." She was good friends with him and she's like, "This is your person." And I was like, "Great, like put us in the same room." So we run into him. I'm actually out with this friend at dinner and we run into him. We were at a restaurant and he came over to our table and chatted with us. And I was immediately, and I am not someone that's like this. I'm not the girl that goes on dates and comes home and is like, "Oh my God, I think he's the one." I never say that. And I was like, "That's my husband." I just felt an energy. I looked at him across the table and I was like, yes to literally all of that. And I went home that night. You know, we just had this conversation at the table. That was it. I went home and I could not sleep. And I'm a great sleeper. And I was just so excited. And I felt so much adrenaline, not in like a toxic butterfly way, but in like a, oh my God, I feel something very different than I've ever felt. 2 days later, I go to review a Pilates class that I've never been to before in New York that my assistant set up. It's a Monday morning at 8, and I walk into this random studio. Not random, it's an amazing instructor, but I had just never been there before. And he's sitting on the reformer next to me. And we both just look at each other and we're like, mm-hmm. And we talk about that moment now and we're like, yeah, we both had an understanding in that moment. And I actually texted Dale, my business partner at the time. I met my husband in Pilates today. And she sent me a screenshot of that when we got engaged. She's like, "Remember this?"
Wow. That feeling you're talking about where there's that excitement, but it's not that toxic override butterfly feeling. I feel like it's a feeling of almost an out of body feeling. I felt it when I met my partner where I was like, I am conscious that I just met this person and it is not logical and I'm going to do all the healthy things. I'm not rushing into anything, but there's just this weird knowing that I'm like, I feel like I'm going to marry this person. Like, I don't know what it is. It just like makes sense. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's just like a very grounded, this is correct for you type of feeling.
Yeah, it's safety and excitement at the same time in like the most beautiful way.
I also think it's extremely expensive for people who are in relationships who are in their 30s or their 40s and they're like, oh my God, I feel stuck. How am I supposed to end the relationship, start over? It's going to be so long. I've talked to so many girlfriends where they're like, well, if we break up, then, you know, I'll be single for a year and then I'll date someone and then we won't get engaged for another year. And then, you know, when am I going to have kids? And like, how can this happen in my timeline? And I totally get it, especially as women. It's really challenging, especially if you want kids. But I feel like if you are dating when you are a little bit older, like 30s plus, the timeline is faster. You know yourself better. The other person knows themselves better. It doesn't have to be the timeline of dating that it was in your 20s, where you want so much get to know you time. I feel like partially you have such a long runway during your 20s or even early 30s because you're figuring yourself out. But when you deeply know yourself, it doesn't need to be this really long, drawn out process if that feels aligned for you.
100%. And I have so much empathy and understanding for people that are in their 30s or whatever age, and they're feeling like maybe it's not the right partner, but oh my God, how will I ever start over? And this is something that I really turned to your podcast for in a big way, because it was expansive to hear other people talk about going through breakups and making that decision to walk away when it's an amazing person and you could have a great future together, but it's just not exactly what you wanted or what they wanted. Yeah, all I can say is that the trust fall will always pay off if you're really truly tuning in and listening to your gut. And also to your point about dating, there are so many pros to meeting your person a little bit later in life. Our standards are higher. We have such a lower tolerance for any bullshit from the people that we're dating. And things can move a lot faster because people are more ready and they have a way better understanding of the things that they want, the priorities that they're seeking in a relationship. And if I had sat there and worried about, okay, I'm 31 now, if I meet him by 33 and then we get married and then I'm having a kid at 37, like, I understand that that's a protective part of you trying to play things out, but it ends up being very counterproductive.
You've heard us talk about our Pathway membership, but what actually is it? It is an all-access membership where you can get every single workshop that we've ever created, all of our deep imaginings, which are our reprogramming audios, to help you manifest. You can access it on the desktop or in the TBM app on your phone directly. We, of course, have our foundational workshops, such as our How to Manifest workshop, which takes you step by step through this neural manifestation process to actually unblock, expand, and take aligned action to connect with your manifestations. Our How to Be Magnetic workshop, our Inner Child and Shadow workshops. And then, of course, we have a workshop if you are in a rut, if you're in a rock bottom, if you're in an up level, perhaps you need to set boundaries. Maybe you want to focus specifically on the block of money or love. It is all in there. And then twice a year as a community, we gather for our challenges. Our challenges are one of the most effective parts of the process because you get accountability. It is really a handheld experience in how to work through whatever the theme of that year's challenge is. And now to my absolute favorite part of our membership, which I think in and of itself would be worth the entire weight of the membership if we just had this alone, our Deep Imagining library. This library encompasses over 60 neural reprogramming audio tracks. They're self-hypnosis tracks that will really support you in any step of this journey. If you're needing calming, nervous system regulation, unblocking with a specific test or trigger, going through a difficult time, processing a big emotion, or maybe you just want reinforcing, how to reinforce those neural pathways of confidence, abundance, self-worth, deservingness, and connection with your dream life. And not only that, if you go to the app, we just launched Deep Imagining playlists where we're grouping different themes of DIs together. So no matter what you're going through, you have something for you. And we're constantly dropping new playlists as well as brand new Deep Imaginings. And if you need more support in your process, you can go to our brand new video series, Channelings with Lacey, where she touches on the exact energetics that are going on right now in manifestation and how it may apply to your life. So obviously, I am a huge fan of this membership. The peace of mind I get from being able to have all the tools I need at my disposal, no matter where I'm at with my life, if shit's hitting the fan, if I'm feeling dysregulated, if I'm needing to come back to my center, if I'm needing to brainstorm or daydream or connect with what my vision for my future is, every single tool is in there to support me. And don't just take my word for it. We have thousands of testimonials of people who have had incredible success stories with these tools. So take the guesswork out of your manifestation process and get real tools that are going to give you real results. For podcast listeners only, you can use code EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, for 20% off your first month of the pathway. Join now and have your best year yet. So much of the through line of your story is just really sinking back into self and understanding what you need and giving that to yourself to lean you into surrender versus the dog paddling energy. Is there any other insights or tips or things that you're like, dang, this really helped? Especially, you've talked about being like really in your head and an overthinker. And I can imagine for people, especially when they're dating and then you're like, I think I found my partner, how that overthinker part might take over the scenes. Was there any way that you sat with those parts or processed those parts so you didn't allow them to kind of come in the driver's seat and take over in those instances?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely identify as an overthinker, and it's still something that I deal with every day. I think that the nervous system regulation piece is really important. I have my daily non-negotiable handful, it doesn't have to be a bunch, of habits that I come back to every day because they keep me regulated, not overwhelmed, and I just overthink and catastrophize less. So for me, that's a daily effort. I know that for a lot of people, it doesn't have to be that way, bless, but for me, it requires all hands on deck. And so I have to set myself up for success to not spiral and overthink every day. To me, that looks like not sleeping with my phone in the bedroom, keeping it in the kitchen so that I'm not looking at it before bed and like programming my sleep situation via other people's lives on social media. It involves waking up and not looking at the phone again. I sleep with an alarm clock next to my bed. And literally rolling out of my bed and onto my meditation cushion without doing anything in between, and turning on something like a DI or any kind of meditation that feels good for you, and starting your day that way by taking care of you first and just allowing yourself to have some control over the programming, right? Like, I think so many of us are like, oh, I'm not a morning person. And it's like, are you not a morning person, or are you just not setting yourself up for success? If the problem is that you're not working out in the morning, set your workout clothes out next to your bed so you have no excuses. I think that there are so many little micro habits that we can do to set ourselves up for success, and know yourself. I know my mental health baseline can be a little shaky. And so every day it has to be an active effort. And I've just grown to be okay with that because the result has been amazing.
We hear so many of those morning habits or things to do of how to take your power back, but figuring out what that stack is for you of like, okay, I know these things, there's a million things I could do and let me test them, but these are the things that move the needle the most, and really prioritizing them, trying to stay as consistent as possible, is communicating high self-worth. It's saying, I figured out what I need. I'm going to meet my needs. I'm going to have respect for myself because I know that I'm the priority in this situation. Do you know how incredibly magnetic that is to have that ritual with self?
It becomes the undertone to everything that you do. Even the way that I move my body now is out of self-respect. It's because I love my body so much that it deserves to be mobile and taken care of and toned and feel and look amazing. Like today, I had a very small window to make myself like a brunch between recordings. And it was a beautiful, delicious, gluten-free sourdough bagel. I don't know if you've had Need Love Bakery. They're amazing. And 2 farm fresh eggs with a bunch of veggies and some feta cheese. And it's like, and that might not be for everyone, but pouring that self-respect and love and little ritual into something that could be so minor, it has like such a greater signal to your body and your mind than I think we even realize.
1,000%. With our last money challenge, we had everyone going on abundance walks where they just like take a walk for themselves. They can put on a DI, they can listen to music, whatever it is, get out, see the abundance around you, the abundance in a flower, in the tree, or whatever. And it was like the most widely taken in activation we'd ever done. We have gotten so many tags of people doing that. And I'm like, guys, this is programming yourself for self-worth, for self-respect, that you deserve that time to witness the beauty in the world around you, to really look at that flower or that tree or that sunset. There's such little ways that we can be working on rewiring to higher self-worth, higher self-respect, confidence, all of that. It starts with how we connect with us. So it's so, so huge. And now I'm like, okay, I have to get my phone out of the bedroom. I have the alarm clock and I still have my phone in the room.
Jessica, I'm shocked.
I am so, so bad with it. Like, I have it on the other side of the room, but I pick it up and I try as hard as I can. I don't go on social, but Slack is my nemesis.
You know what's helpful for this? It was an investment, but I actually bought a small iPad that has no email, no iMessage, nothing. And that way I can just pull up DIs and meditations in the morning without having to use my phone. Because everyone's like, well, how are you doing it if you're not looking at your phone? And I'm like, I actually have a solve for that.
Wow. Okay, this is good.
Aligned action. Buy yourself the mini iPad, you know?
The other thing too, now that I'm thinking about it, you can download the DIs to be offline. So the night before, I could pick a DI, make it offline, and keep my phone on airplane mode.
Yes.
I know. I know it's going to make a big difference. It's like one of those things, it's like the little nagging habit. You've gotten the ping so many times to do it. And I know it's going to make me very magnetic on the other side of doing it, even though it's such a little habit. But it's, yeah, the commitment is happening.
Great. I'm checking in.
Okay, so now bring us to career updates, because you just announced something, and I know this episode will probably air a little bit after this happened, but the blog that you launched, created, grew into this huge brand with one of your best friends you are now separating from. So how does this relate to your career manifestations? And are you getting more clarity around what you want in career? What is that looking like?
Yeah, so I think that a good place to start is around the creation of my podcast. And, you know, I was doing Sweats in the City when I started my podcast for about 9 years at that time with one of my best friends, Dale, and we were reviewing workouts and wellness things. And when I started doing my podcast, which, you know, has sort of a through line and a purpose around my chronic pain and conditions. It's about all things wellness, but that's definitely something that comes up a lot because I just feel so aligned with sharing this work that's changed my life so much through Nicole Sachs, of course. The more I started sharing just in a really raw, vulnerable way with kind of no game plan on what it was going to look like or structure, just doing it literally from the heart because it felt good and because I started to feel momentum of other people receiving it and telling me that, the more I started to realize that I was having that sensation that I had for those first years of doing Sweats in the City, where I was so aligned with what I was putting out. The content was just flowing through me. I would get pings in meditations of, ooh, this is like what you should make a reel about. And it had switched over to the wellness process, which is my podcast. And so I started really rolling with it and just pouring more of myself into that. And at the time, Sweats was like really a pretty well-oiled machine. So I was able to keep up both. But with time, and honestly, as the wellness process grew more financially abundant and I felt like I could support myself, it became increasingly difficult to do both. And I'm really not someone who can do something half-assed. Like I am 110% all the way. And so I was kind of burning myself out by trying to maintain both things. You know, I was also just in a little bit of like a content slump. And I think that content is all energetics as well. People can really feel the energy of what you're putting into a reel or a static post or even a story. And, you know, I was dragging my feet a little bit, like reviewing workouts just wasn't lighting me up in the same way. And I started having these kind of organic conversations with Dale about it, where we were brainstorming content directions and just communicating about us both feeling a little bit blocked up in the content department. We had a couple of these conversations and we finally were like, let's take the weekend. It was 4th of July and both sit on this and see if this is something that we still both want to do. I think we owe it to ourselves and the business and our followers to really go inward. And I sat on it. I came back to her that Monday after the holiday and was like, I can't do it anymore. I was so pleasantly surprised. I mean, Dale is just an amazing stand-up human being all around. And like I said, one of my best friends. Her response to it was so understanding and she was excited to take on the business herself. And I was so happy and relieved about that. What the last thing I wanted was for Sweats in the City to cease to exist because I was pulling the plug. You know, that was my nightmare. This is a very precious community to me. This is where I started my career. This is a big portion of my listeners and followers on the wellness process came from Sweats in the City. And so, yeah, from there, we really kind of made a game plan on what it would look like and all of the behind the scene details and financials and things like that we had to sort out. And our friendship has remained the top priority throughout all of this. And I feel so lucky for that because I think with business, things can really go sour really easily. Unfortunately, when money gets involved, things can get really complicated. Dale and I both agreed in the very early days of Sweats that we would never let that happen. And even through all of the ups and downs and having to sort of like reinvent ourselves during COVID and start fitness apps and do all kinds of other crazy things, fail at different projects. And now this, where I decided to leave the business, we are stronger than ever. And we're both really excited for Sweats to have a 2.0 with Dale leading the way and being able to pour all of her energy individually into it. And also for the 2.0 of our friendship, where we get to actually be just friends and not have 90% of our conversation and seeing each other be around content and business and money.
I think there's also such a freedom of having even though it's with your best friend and you're creating content in that lane, it's like you guys did that and you've done it for so long. And then to kind of break out and stand on your own 2 feet on something, it's like the energy well shifts. And it's like, wow, this is fully in my frequency. What do I want to create? What do I want to alchemize? What do I want to put into it? I think it's a really powerful thing to do.
And by the way, I definitely had a block around doing things on my own. So I didn't mention this prior, but there was like a little sidestep in this story where I actually started a podcast with somebody else before I started the wellness process. It was way more pelvic pain focused, and it really kind of like took on that identity. It was pain, it was endometriosis, it was medical stuff. And I was like, at first, really passionate about it. And then I was like, this isn't feeling aligned at all, especially as I got into the nervous system stuff. And I was like, this is actually perpetuating the narrative that I'm sick and there's something wrong with me and it's not feeling good. And so we ended up starting that, pouring a bunch of money into it and like doing a photo shoot and the whole thing and putting out probably like 10 or more episodes and then deciding to not do it. So that was really hard. But it was also, I feel like the universe pushing me, like, you got to do this on your own. You keep trying to do these things with other people to stay really safe and comfortable and to have someone to always lean on. And that served me and Dale in so many ways to be together for 10 years. I would never change that. But with the podcast and with this next phase of my career, I really needed to do it on my own.
This is just a side note, but I don't know why. I don't really see auras, but your aura is glowing white right now. The second you started talking about like launching your own thing, it just went, I can't, I wish I could screenshot it. It's like so palpable. I'm like,
my
what is
God.
going on? The
I wish
white
I could
aura
see
is supposed to be like
auras.
very good, grounded, like very, very high vibe.
Wow, I'm flattered and honored. And I do feel that. I mean, I feel like my heart is like racing right now talking about it, and not in a nervous way, in like I feel so called to share and talk about it, and also just like so much gratitude for being here.
I think it's also so wild, even thinking back on that block of like the mediocre piece. Okay, if that is a fear or a limiting belief in some way, I also love the flip side of like, what does it authentically mean to embody the opposite of it, right? Like owning the shadow of it, but then authentically being like, okay, my child brain thought mediocre looked like this material XYZ things. I can let that go. But actually, maybe this limiting belief, instead of being this detriment, was actually the thing guiding me saying it needs to be this big thing. It needs to impact loads of people. And it really was that North Star that's like lighting you up, going towards your own career passions and having that evolve. Because I think sometimes we think limiting beliefs, it's like get rid of them, erase them, all the things. But what is the more empowered version of that that actually feels authentic? Maybe there is authenticity that wants to come out and connect through that. It's just kind of dropping the ego portion of it too.
It's so true. And I think this is a very important reframe of not trying to like swat away all of our limiting beliefs, but more take a magnifying glass to them and be like, what's actually going on here? Because you're right. And to be honest, I would not lie on here. I really don't feel mediocre at all in my career anymore at all. I really feel fully expanded. And like I said, I have a long way to go and there's so much I want to do. I really genuinely feel in my soul that this is just the beginning, but I'm very proud. And I do feel like that fear of mediocre was like, don't settle in these different areas of your life. Actually reach for the stars kind of energy.
I mean, that's what everyone needs to hear right now. If you have that calling, if you have that pull, if you're like, I want to create something big, I want to create something impactful, obviously sit with all the inner child parts that like maybe trying to get needs met. But there's just an energetic difference between my soul is calling for this and it's grounded and calm and wise versus I need this to like fill a void. It's so different.
Yes. I remember I saw a coach/therapist in the midst of this journey and going through my breakup and whatever. And I'll never forget, she described my energy like a baby rabbit's heart racing. She was like, you're sitting on here and it's like a little rabbit whose heart is like beating out of its chest. And it's so true. That was the energy that I was embodying, and that was painting my reality of desperation to heal, to find the person, to figure the career out. And it's not the vibe.
But you put in the work to get back to alignment. And that's the other thing that is just so clear with you. Like even just listening to your podcast and following you online, your level of connection to self and alignment is so strong right now. Like it is so palpable. And I feel like from that state, literally anything is possible. It's not even any external thing. It's like back to those practices. What do I need? What can support me? And then you don't have to worry about how everything unfolds. It will just unfold. You will know. It will be clear.
Yes. I think a really good example of that is with content and putting a level of pressure on myself to put things out that do well, right? Like it's just kind of part of my job and part of the game on social media. When I am able to regulate and slow down and do my daily morning meditation, which I'm on almost day 200 of a streak of not breaking it, which I never thought I would be able to say. I was the classic like non-meditator. When I get really quiet, I then find that throughout the day, during times when I would have normally filled that space with self-criticism or worry or spiraling like we spoke about, instead I get ideas. They're so strong that I have to keep a journal next to my meditation cushion, or sometimes I have to pull out my notes app when I'm in a workout because these ideas come to me in such a different way. So there really is something to be said about slowing down isn't going to put you behind. It's actually going to make the path to where you're supposed to be way more efficient and way less effortful.
Well, I forget what DI it is. It might be the rooted in abundance, but it's like, can you feel how slowing down actually allows everything else to expand? That is such the key. The little micro moments that you can create spaciousness actually allows so much more to come in. This is a really good note for people who talk about not getting pings, following that slowing down and seeing how it switches over.
It's like the person that's like, was that a ping? Is there a ping? I feel like I'm not getting pings. And like, pings aren't coming because they don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much frantic busyness. I think so many people, I mean, you could pick up your phone and do something in 2 seconds. Like there's so much stimulation that it's a radical act to step away from it. And it's the exact medicine we all need in order to connect back to ourselves.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. This is amazing. People are going to be messaging you. Check out her podcast, Wellness Process. She has her solo in there on full details of her engagement, which is such a beautiful story too. Where can people find you, connect with you, and what's on your heart for what's next?
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Like I said, such an honor to come on and truly one of my top manifestations. So thank you for bringing that to reality. People can listen to the Wellness Process podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. And you can find me on Instagram at the Wellness Process Pod, or my personal account, Eliza End, which has more like wardrobe and things like that incorporated. So, and what's next? You know, I'm getting married in about 2 months and I'm really excited for that. And we're moving into a new apartment that I manifested. And there's a lot of big things happening. So I'm really, really jazzed up right now.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And if you're like, what is TBM? Where do I start? I need to do this program that has helped her manifest so much. I would highly recommend starting with our Pathway membership. It includes every single workshop, every single DI. It's a year-long membership that gives you full access to everything in there. And in that, we have our How to Manifest workshop. Now, that was the challenge that Elizabeth did that really set everything into motion for her. So if you want to start the process, I would do the How to Manifest workshop inside the Pathway membership. We also have the How to Manifest book that will be coming out on October 21st. You can also get that as a physical companion to it. It has unique exercises, deeper breakdowns of how Lacey developed each process to every single nuance and energetic of this process. And it has tons of expander stories, new exercises from myself and Allie, our incredible copywriter. And I would stay tuned. Try to meet us on tour if you can. And if not, we're going to have a couple other digital activations to help give you guys some momentum for crafting that list, getting started in this work. And then, of course, we're going to have an end of year challenge come December. Lots of things coming in the world of TBM. Okay, we'll see you next week.